All right, so we're diving into motivation today.
Okay.
And, we've got some really interesting stuff here from Very Well Mind.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that I'm really curious about is how we can sort of, take this idea of motivation. I mean, we all know it's why we do things.
Right.
But how do we actually use that to get where we want to go?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's what's so often overlooked is it's not this kind of abstract force.
Yeah.
It really is the engine behind everything.
Yeah.
Every decision, every choice.
I love that.
So tapping into that is huge.
So let's not get, too bogged down on the definition.
Yeah.
I think you're here because you already kind of get the basic, what motivation is.
Yeah.
But here's where I think it gets really interesting. The article talks about those two main types,
Mm-hmm.
extrinsic and intrinsic.
Yes.
And, we've all heard those terms before, but I want you to think about it in the context of, your own life right now. Is there a goal you're working towards where the drive is coming from something outside of you?
Oh, totally.
Like maybe a reward or recognition?
I think it's so fascinating how often we don't even realize that we're being driven by these things. Like a classic example is working harder when a bonus is on the line.
Oh, yeah.
Or, sticking to that workout routine because you have an outfit you want to fit into.
Oh, totally guilty of that one.
Yes.
But then there's the flip side, right?
Yeah.
Intrinsic motivation.
Yes.
This is where I think it gets really powerful.
Absolutely.
It's the stuff you do purely because you love it.
Yeah.
No reward needed.
Right.
So what are some things for you that you find yourself doing just because they light you up?
For me, it's playing music.
Yeah.
No external reward, no audience. Most of the time, it's just that pure joy of creating something.
Yeah.
And what I think is really interesting about intrinsic motivation is it's so much more sustainable.
Oh, for sure.
Over time.
Yeah.
Because it's not relying on those external factors that can change.
Right. It's not dependent on something else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like a paycheck versus the passion for the work.
Absolutely.
Speaking of different types of motivation, though, the article mentions this thing called family motivation.
Yeah.
And I have to admit, this one kind of stumped me a little bit.
Yeah.
It's not quite extrinsic.
Right.
But it's not purely intrinsic either.
It's interesting, isn't it?
It is.
The example they give is going to work to provide for your family.
Okay.
So you might not love your job,
Right.
but the motivation stems from this deep desire to care for your loved one.
Right. So it's like this layered motivation
Right.
where the why is so much deeper
Yeah.
than just a reward or just my own satisfaction.
Yeah, exactly. And it can create such unique challenges.
Oh, I bet.
Because you're balancing your own needs and desires with that responsibility of providing for others.
Right.
It's complex.
And it makes me think about how motivation isn't always so black and white,
Absolutely.
It
Yeah.
can be this mix of things.
It's the interplay, right?
Yeah.
And that's where understanding those forces
Yeah.
is so crucial.
Okay, so we've got this understanding of kind of what motivation is, the different flavors it comes in.
Yeah.
But why does all of this even matter?
Right.
Why should you listening care about unpacking this thing called motivation?
Well, because I think if we think about our goals
Mm-hmm.
and the things we want to achieve,
Yeah.
motivation is the fuel,
Yeah.
the energy to overcome obstacles.
I like that.
And so the more we understand about our own motivational drivers, the better equipped we are to kind of navigate all those challenges that inevitably come up.
Yeah, so it's not just about understanding what motivates you. It's about using that to create a roadmap
Absolutely.
for success.
Yeah.
And the article breaks it down even further into
Right.
these three key components:
Mm-hmm.
activation, persistence, and intensity.
I love these components because they give us something very tangible
Yeah.
to think about. So think about activation, that initial spark, the decision to start something new. That's activation.
So you've got the spark, the initial motivation.
Yeah.
But then how do you keep the fire burning?
That's persistence.
Yeah.
Right? So that's how we overcome the roadblocks, the setbacks showing up consistently.
Yeah, even when you don't feel like it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's the difference between starting a project and finishing it.
And then there's that intensity factor.
Yes.
And this one I think resonates with me a lot because it's about bringing your A game,
Yes.
that focused energy.
That focus.
Have you ever found yourself
Oh.
slipping into a more passive mode versus those moments of intense focus?
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
think we all have those fluctuations
Huh.
in intensity. And it's interesting to think about when you were completely engrossed in a task, whether it was, writing or solving a problem or working on some creative project, you probably lost track of time.
Totally.
The effort felt effortless.
Yeah.
That's intensity.
That's the flow state.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what I think is cool about these three things is the article suggests that, if you understand these three things, you can kind of identify where your natural strengths lie.
Yeah.
Like, are you someone who thrives on that initial spark,
Right.
but then struggles to maintain momentum?
Yeah.
Or are you like a master of persistence, but you have a hard time getting started?
It's so insightful to think about which one you naturally gravitate towards.
Yeah.
Because once you understand that, then you can start to develop strategies that leverage those tendencies.
Right.
Address areas where you might need support.
Totally. And that's where I think we're headed next, which is, okay, how do we actually improve our motivation?
Yeah.
Because we all hit those slumps.
We do.
Where it's like,
all the time.
Getting started, staying focused, pushing through. It's just like,
it feels impossible.
Yeah.
But it's normal.
It is.
And I think that's the key, is remembering that this isn't something that just happens to us. It's something that we can cultivate. We can strengthen. It's like building a muscle. The more we use it, the stronger it gets.
Okay, so let's get practical here.
Okay.
The article highlights a few tips for actually boosting motivation.
Okay.
And the first one is all about adjusting our goals. It suggests that we need to make sure our goals are really aligned with our values and passions.
It's powerful, isn't it, when you have that alignment?
It is.
Because when your goals are driven by something deeper than just that fleeting desire,
totally,
you're going to stay motivated.
Like going to the gym because you should versus going to the gym because you love how it makes you feel.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
What's the deeper why?
But sometimes even when our goals are aligned, they can still feel
overwhelming.
Like they use this example of wanting to lose 50 pounds.
Right.
I mean, that's a big goal.
It's a huge goal.
Yeah, so
And that's where I think breaking it down into those smaller steps makes all the difference.
Okay.
So instead of focusing on this daunting 50-pound number, what if you shifted your perspective to losing just 5 pounds this month?
I see where you're going with this.
Yeah.
Suddenly it feels more attainable.
Exactly. And those smaller victories can keep you moving forward.
Okay.
And each step, each mini goal you achieve, you build belief in yourself.
Yeah.
And that fuels your motivation to keep going.
It's a positive feedback loop.
It is.
Like one small win builds upon the last.
Absolutely.
And it makes me think about this other tip that the article highlights.
Yeah.
Boosting confidence. It talks about this link.
It's so strong.
Between how confident we feel and our ability to stay motivated.
Absolutely. Because when we believe in ourselves, we're more likely to take risks.
Yeah.
Persevere through challenges and achieve those goals.
So how do we boost our confidence?
Yeah.
The article suggests focusing on past achievements, like times when we've overcome obstacles or succeeded in challenging situations.
You're building that mental library of evidence that says, hey, you've done this before, you can do it again.
Yes.
So think about a time when you faced a difficult situation and you came out on top. What skills and strengths did you use?
And not just recalling those successes, but acknowledging the effort and resilience it took to achieve them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like reminding yourself you have what it takes
exactly
to face those future challenges.
And if you're having trouble identifying past achievements, maybe shift the focus to your strengths.
Yes.
What are you naturally good at?
What talents and abilities do you have focusing on your strengths?
Yeah.
Can boost that self-belief.
Love that perspective.
Yeah.
It's about building yourself up.
Yes.
Instead of focusing on
those perceived weaknesses.
Yeah. But the article does acknowledge that sometimes low motivation can be a sign of something a little bit deeper going on.
Yeah.
Potentially a mental health condition.
Absolutely. And this is a really important point because if you are experiencing that prolonged lack of motivation, it's interfering with your life and causing you significant distress. It's so crucial to reach out for professional help.
For sure.
A mental health professional can help you explore those underlying causes and develop strategies to address them.
Yeah, it's not a sign of weakness to ask for help. It's a sign of strength.
Absolutely.
And self-care.
It is.
Okay, so we've covered some great tips.
Yeah.
For boosting motivation. But let's talk about those pitfalls.
Oh, yes.
Things that can sabotage our efforts.
Those sneaky traps.
Sneaky traps.
Yes.
I think one of the biggest ones is that all or nothing thinking.
Oh, shit.
It's the trap of believing that if we make one mistake or deviate from our plan,
We failed.
we've totally failed.
Right.
Might as well give up.
It leaves no room for imperfection.
It doesn't.
And the reality is setbacks are a natural part of any journey.
Yeah.
It's how we respond to them that determines our success.
So instead of throwing in the towel after one misstep,
Right?
develop a more flexible mindset,
Yes.
one that allows for mistakes.
Embrace the process,
Yeah.
the ups and downs.
Embrace the mess.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not striving for that unattainable ideal of perfection.
Ugh. I think we've covered a lot of ground here in this first part of our deep dive into motivation.
We've talked about why it matters, the different types, and some practical strategies for boosting that drive.
Yeah, and really we've only just begun to scratch the surface.
Absolutely.
There's so much more to explore. In the next part, we're going to delve into some of those fascinating theories that attempt to explain motivation.
I'm excited.
From basic instincts to Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Yes.
We're going to connect those theories back to your life, help you understand what really drives you and how to harness that knowledge
It could be fun.
to achieve those goals. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
All right. So we started to think about, those whys, like what drives you, what makes you tick. And now I think we can kind of add another layer to this
Okay.
by looking at some of the big theories
Mm-hmm.
that try to explain human motivation.
Okay.
And these aren't just abstract ideas. They
Mhm.
can actually give us some really practical insights
Mhm.
into how our own mind works.
Okay. I have to admit, whenever I hear the word theory, my brain kind of goes on standby.
I hear ya.
Oh, God. Here you go.
Theories can sound intimidating, but they're really just frameworks
Yeah.
for understanding these complex ideas.
Okay.
And when it comes to motivation, they can really help us connect the dots
Hmm.
between our inner world and our actions.
So where do we even begin?
Right.
There's a lot of them.
There are a lot of them.
The article mentioned.
Let's start with one of the oldest,
Okay.
instinct theory.
Okay.
And this one suggests that a lot of our behavior is driven by these innate,
Mm-hmm.
hardwired instincts.
Like those basic survival things.
Exactly. Think about fear,
Yeah.
the need to find food and shelter.
Right.
Those are instincts kicking in.
Okay. I can see how that makes sense for basic survival, but what about the more complex things that we're motivated to do?
Right.
Like building a career or creating art?
You're right. Instinct theory doesn't quite capture the whole picture.
Doesn't quite get us there.
And that's where drive reduction theory comes in.
Okay.
This one focuses on biological needs
Okay.
and how we're driven to reduce those needs.
Okay.
So you're hungry, you feel a drive to eat.
Yeah.
That drive pushes you to seek out food.
So it's like our body is sending us signals to kind of maintain that
Yes.
state of balance.
Yeah, state of equilibrium.
Yeah.
And we feel uncomfortable when a need is unmet.
Yeah.
And that discomfort is what motivates us to take action.
Okay, but even that doesn't explain everything, right?
You're right, because
Sometimes we seek out discomfort
I
or
get-
excitement.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're bringing up a crucial point. Drive reduction is great for explaining those basic biological urges.
Yeah.
But it doesn't quite account for things like curiosity exploration,
Yeah.
the desire for novelty.
Right.
And that's where arousal theory comes in.
Okay.
This one suggests that we're motivated to maintain an optimal level
Mm-hmm.
of arousal or stimulation.
Okay, so this is where it gets a little more personalized.
Exactly.
Because what feels optimally aroused for one person might be totally different for
But
someone else.
precisely. We all have our own unique arousal sweet spot.
Yeah.
And understanding your own arousal preferences can give you insights into why certain activities energize you while others might drain you.
It makes me think about those different personality types.
Yeah.
Like extroverts versus introverts.
Exactly.
You know, some people thrive in social situations. Other people need that downtime.
Yeah, it's like understanding your arousal preferences can help you create an environment that supports your energy levels and keeps you feeling motivated.
I like that.
Yeah.
This kind of ties in nicely with another theory
Okay.
that the article mentions Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Yes. This one's a classic
It is.
and often depicted as a pyramid
Yeah.
with our most basic needs at the bottom.
Food, water, shelter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And as those basic needs are met, we move up the pyramid, seeking higher level needs.
Okay, so it's saying that we're motivated by this
Hierarchy
hierarchy
of needs,
of needs.
starting with the most fundamental ones for survival.
Got it.
And once those are met, our motivation shifts to those higher level needs for growth and fulfillment.
I've definitely heard of this theory
Yeah.
before, but I've never really thought about it in the context of my own motivation.
Yeah, it's a powerful framework for understanding how our motivations can evolve and change as we progress through life.
Okay.
Think about it. When you're struggling to make ends meet, your motivation might be laser focused on securing those basic needs.
Yeah.
But as those needs are met, your motivation might shift towards building relationships,
Okay.
pursuing a career.
Right. So it's not just about understanding what motivates us at this moment in time. It's recognizing that our motivations can shift and expand as our needs and circumstances change.
Exactly. And that recognition is key
Yeah.
for navigating those shifts effectively.
Okay.
Because what motivates you at one stage of your life might not be what drives you 5 or 10 years down the road.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's a dynamic process.
It is a dynamic process.
Yeah.
And by understanding those internal and external factors, those whys behind your actions, you can gain a much deeper understanding of what truly motivates you and how to harness that power to
Yeah.
create a more fulfilling and successful life.
Okay. We've covered some pretty heady stuff here
Oh, yeah.
with all these different theories, but I really appreciate how you've kind of brought them down to earth.
With theories are only valuable if we can apply them.
Right.
And when it comes to motivation, understanding these theoretical frameworks
Yeah.
can give you a whole new perspective on how your own mind works.
And it's not about picking one and saying this is the one.
Oh, yeah.
It explains everything.
Exactly. It's more about taking bits and pieces
Yeah.
from each theory
Yeah.
and seeing how they fit together
Yeah.
to create this more holistic understanding of your own motivational tapestry.
I like that you're in motivational tapestry. Speaking of personalized approaches, the article does offer some really practical tips
Okay.
for boosting motivation and avoiding those common pitfalls that we talked about.
Yeah.
But I'm curious from your perspective, what are some of the biggest misconceptions that people have about motivation?
That's a great question, and it's one I encounter all the time in my work.
Yeah.
I think one of the most pervasive misconceptions is that motivation is something that just happens to us.
Oh, yeah.
People often say things like, "Oh, I'm just not motivated today," as if it's some external force.
Like waiting for that bolt of inspiration to strike.
Exactly. Or the motivation fairy to sprinkle them with magic dust.
The motivation fairy, yes.
But the reality is that motivation is much more nuanced than that. It's something that we can actively cultivate, influence, and direct. The Very Well Mind article does a really good job of highlighting this.
Yeah, it emphasizes that motivation is not a passive state.
Right.
It's an active process.
Exactly.
We can choose to engage in activities that boost our drive, set goals, that inspire us, and surround ourselves with supportive people.
And the more we understand about those different types of motivation
Yeah.
and the factors that influence them, the better equipped we are to really take charge of our own motivational states.
So it's about shifting from that passive mindset of waiting to be motivated
Yes.
to an active mindset of creating motivation.
Precisely. And that shift in perspective can be so empowering
Yeah.
because when we realize that we have agency over our own motivation, we're less likely to feel stuck or helpless and more likely to take those proactive steps towards our goals.
I love that.
Yeah.
Another common misconception, I think, is that motivation is all about willpower.
Oh, yes.
You know, we hear those phrases all the time.
Just push through it, mind over matter.
Yeah. But the article challenges that view.
It does. Because willpower is undoubtedly important,
Yeah.
but it's only one piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
And relying solely on willpower can be unsustainable and even counterproductive in the long run.
It's like trying to run a marathon on willpower alone.
Exactly. You might be able to push through for a while,
Yeah.
but eventually you're going to hit a wall.
You're going to hit a wall.
And that's where understanding the other facets of motivation comes into play.
Okay.
We need to create environments that support our goals,
Yeah.
develop healthy habits, and manage our energy levels effectively.
This is a more holistic approach.
Exactly. It aligns with the article's emphasis on the importance of self-care.
Yes.
When we prioritize our own well-being,
Mm-hmm.
we're more likely to have the energy, focus, and resilience to actually pursue our goals.
So it's not selfish to take care of ourselves.
It's essential
Yeah.
for sustained motivation and success.
And this kind of leads into another common misconception that motivation is all about external rewards.
Yes. The carrots and sticks.
The carrots and sticks, right?
If we do this, we'll get that.
Right.
But the article really highlights the importance of intrinsic motivation.
Yes.
That drive that comes from within.
That comes from within.
When we're intrinsically motivated, we're engaged in activities for the pure joy and satisfaction of it.
Yeah.
And this type of motivation tends to be so much more sustainable and fulfilling in the long run.
So it's about finding those activities that light us up,
Exactly.
that make us feel energized and alive.
Yes, and that ties back to the importance of self-awareness.
Yeah.
We need to understand what truly excites us, what makes us tick,
What makes us tick?
and then seek out opportunities to engage in those activities, even if they don't come with external rewards or recognition.
So align your actions with your passions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about finding that sweet spot where our internal drive aligns with our external goals,
Yeah.
and that's where the magic happens.
That's where the magic happens.
Uh,
I love that. We've talked a lot about individual motivation, but I'm curious from your perspective, how do we apply these principles to motivate others?
Right.
Whether it's in a workplace setting, a family dynamic,
yeah.
or even just in our personal relationships.
It's a great question. And I think this is an area where understanding motivation can be incredibly valuable.
Yeah.
One of the key takeaways from the Very Well Mind article is that there's no one-size-fits-all approach.
What works for one person might totally demotivate another.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we have to adopt a more personalized approach when we're trying to motivate others.
Okay, so how do we do that?
Well, it starts with understanding the individual's needs,
Okay.
values, and aspirations.
Yeah.
What drives them? What are their goals?
Mm-hmm.
What are their strengths and weaknesses?
So really taking the time to listen and understand.
Yes, and that can be challenging
It can be.
in a fast-paced world where we're bombarded with distractions.
Right.
But it's essential for creating connection
Yeah.
and building trust, which are key ingredients for effective motivation.
I like that. Okay, so once we have a better understanding of the individual,
Right.
we can start to tailor our approach.
Exactly. So if someone is intrinsically motivated, for example,
Okay.
we might focus on providing them with opportunities for autonomy, mastery, and purpose.
Give them more freedom to choose their own projects.
That's what I-
Encourage them to develop their skills.
Yes,
Help them see how their work contributes to a larger goal.
absolutely.
And if someone's more extrinsically motivated,
Yeah.
maybe we focus on those clear goals, feedback, and rewards.
Yes, set specific targets, offer regular performance reviews, and provide incentives for achieving desired outcomes.
Right. And it's important to remember that motivation is not a static state.
It's not.
It can fluctuate
It fluctuates.
all the time.
So we need to be flexible,
Yes,
adaptable in our approach,
absolutely.
willing to adjust our strategies as needed.
And that requires ongoing communication and feedback.
So check in regularly,
Yes.
see how they're doing,
Exactly.
make adjustments as needed. And that open dialogue helps build trust and strengthen the relationship.
So in essence, motivating others is about creating this supportive and collaborative environment
Yes.
where individuals feel valued, empowered, and inspired to do their best work.
It's about fostering a culture of growth and development where people feel challenged and supported to reach their full potential. And this requires a combination of empathy, understanding, and strategic planning.
And it's a journey that's well worth taking.
It is.
Because when we invest in motivating others, we not only help them succeed,
Yeah,
but we also create a more positive and productive environment
absolutely. A win-win situation.
for everyone.
Yeah, that leads to greater satisfaction, engagement, and overall well-being for all involved.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the positive aspects of motivation.
We have.
But I'm curious, are there any potential downsides or risks associated with being highly motivated?
Ooh, that's an interesting question.
Yeah.
It's one that's often overlooked in these discussions about motivation. While being highly motivated can certainly lead to great things,
Mm-hmm.
it's important to be mindful
Okay.
of potential downsides.
So too much of a good thing.
Exactly. One potential risk is burnout.
Oh, yeah.
When we're constantly pushing ourselves
Mm-hmm.
to achieve going, we can run the risk of depleting our energy reserves and experiencing emotional exhaustion.
It's like running a car on empty.
Yes, eventually it's going to break down.
Yeah.
And this can lead to a host of negative consequences,
Oh, I bet.
including decreased productivity, health problems,
Right.
even relationship issues.
It can impact everything.
Absolutely. So it's crucial to strike a balance
Yeah.
between striving for excellence and prioritizing our well-being.
That self-care piece.
Yes, we need to make sure we're getting enough sleep,
Yeah.
eating healthy foods, exercising regularly, and engaging in activities that nourish our minds and souls.
Right. And setting realistic goals.
Absolutely.
And boundaries.
We can't do everything at once.
We can't.
And trying to do so is a recipe for burnout.
So learning to say no.
Yes. when necessary.
Which can be challenging,
It can be.
especially in a culture that often glorifies busyness and overachievement.
Right, right.
But it's essential for protecting our energy and ensuring that we're able to sustain our motivation over the long term.
Another potential risk of being highly motivated is becoming overly fixated
Yes.
on goals.
When our goals become our sole focus, we can lose sight of other important aspects of our lives.
Yeah, our relationships, our health, our overall well-being.
It's like wearing blinders that prevent us from seeing the bigger picture.
Yeah,
And this can lead to feelings of isolation, imbalance, and even resentment.
so keep those goals in perspective.
Exactly.
They're only one part of a fulfilling and meaningful life.
And that requires cultivating a sense of mindfulness, self-awareness.
Yeah.
We need to be able to step back, assess our priorities,
Yeah.
and make adjustments as needed.
And having that support system in place,
Yes,
those people we can confide in,
absolutely.
who can offer perspective. Having trusted friends, family members, mentors who can offer perspective and encouragement can make all the difference.
Yeah. So while being highly motivated can be this powerful force for good,
Yeah.
it's important to be mindful
Yeah.
of potential pitfalls
Absolutely.
and take steps to mitigate those risks.
It's about finding that sweet spot
Yeah.
where we're striving for excellence
Yeah.
while also prioritizing our well-being
Yeah.
and maintaining a sense of balance in our lives.
And that's a journey
It is a journey.
that requires that ongoing self-reflection,
Yes.
adjustment,
Yeah.
willingness to learn and grow.
Embrace the complexities of motivation and find a path that leads to both success and fulfillment.
Now, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, exploring the definition,
Yeah.
types, theories of motivation,
Mm-hmm.
as well as some of those practical tips
Yeah.
for boosting our drive and avoiding those pitfalls.
It's been fun.
It has been, but I'm curious, what are some of the most fascinating or surprising things you've learned about motivation in your work?
Oh, that's a great question and one that always sparks my curiosity.
Yeah.
And I think one of the most fascinating things I've learned is the power of the unconscious mind
Ooh.
in shaping our motivations.
So we often think of motivation as this very conscious process,
We
something that
certainly-
we deliberately choose.
Right. We're in control.
We're in control.
But there's a whole other layer of motivation that operates beneath the surface of our awareness.
It's like this invisible hand guiding us.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And this is where I think techniques like hypnosis, meditation, and visualization can be really helpful
Okay.
because they allow us to tap into that unconscious realm
Yeah.
and work with those deeper motivations.
So it's not just about setting goals and making plans.
It's about aligning our conscious and unconscious desires.
That's so interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and when we're able to do that,
Hmm.
we create this powerful synergy that can propel us towards our goals with greater ease and flow.
Another fascinating aspect, I think, is the role of emotions.
Oh, yes.
We often think of motivation as purely rational.
Right, as if it's all in our heads.
Right.
But our emotions play a huge role
Yeah,
in shaping our drive.
they do.
Emotions are like fuel for the motivational engine.
Okay.
When we're feeling those positive emotions like excitement, joy, hope, we're naturally more motivated to take action and pursue our goals.
It's like having that tailwind.
It is.
Yeah.
That propels us forward. And conversely, when we're feeling negative emotions like fear, doubt, anxiety, our motivation can really plummet.
It's like hitting a wall.
It's like encountering strong headwinds
Yeah.
that make it much harder to move forward.
So we've got to manage those emotions.
We do. And this requires developing emotional intelligence,
Okay.
the ability to understand and regulate our own emotions as well as the emotions of others.
And creating a supportive environment where
Yeah.
we feel safe to express those emotions.
Absolutely. When we feel emotionally supported, we're more likely to feel motivated and resilient in the face of challenges.
And that brings us to another, I think, surprising aspect of motivation.
Right.
The power of connection.
Yes, we often think of motivation as this individual pursuit,
Mm-hmm.
but the reality is we're social creatures,
Yeah,
and our connections with others play a huge role
they really do.
in shaping our drive.
Yeah, when we feel that sense of belonging, support, purpose,
Yes.
we're naturally more motivated to contribute, to achieve, to make a difference.
It's like having a team of cheerleaders cheering us on from the
I
sidelines.
like that.
And conversely, when we feel isolated,
Hmm.
disconnected, or unsupported,
Yeah.
our motivation can really suffer.
It can so nurture those relationships.
We have to.
Yeah, build that strong support system.
And that involves investing in quality time with loved ones,
Yes.
building meaningful connections with colleagues,
Yeah.
seeking out mentors and role models who inspire us.
And being a source of support for others as well.
Absolutely creating that ripple effect
Yeah.
of positive motivation.
So it's not just an individual pursuit.
It's a collective endeavor.
It is.
It's about creating a culture of support, encouragement, and inspiration where everyone feels empowered
I like it.
to reach their full potential.
And that's a vision that's truly motivating.
It is. It's a reminder that we're all in this together. And by working together, we can achieve amazing things.
It feels like we've only just scratched the surface here.
Yeah.
You've brought up some really incredible insights, especially about the unconscious mind, the emotions, the power of connection.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
It is.
I mean, the more you delve into motivation, the more you realize it's not this
Yeah.
simple thing. It's really this complex interplay.
Yeah, and the article does a great job of giving us
Yeah.
those building blocks.
It gives us that foundation.
Yeah, to start thinking about it in a
Mhm.
more holistic way. So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
what's one key insight you'd want our listener to walk away with?
You know, if I had to choose just one, it would be to remember that motivation is a journey,
Okay.
not a destination. It's going to ebb and flow.
Oh, yeah.
There will be days you feel unstoppable and others where taking that first step feels impossible.
So crucial. And I think so often we get discouraged when that initial motivation fades. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I failed. But it's not about that. It's about learning how to navigate those choices.
Yes, exactly. And that's where self-awareness is so important.
Yeah.
Pay attention to what energizes you, what depletes you, and be kind to yourself through the process.
Yeah. Remember those tips we talked about, breaking down those goals?
Yes,
Focusing on your strengths, building that support system.
absolutely.
And don't forget those pitfalls.
Yes.
The all or nothing thinking, the quick fix mentality, and assuming everyone's motivated the same way.
What works for someone else might not work for you.
Exactly.
And that's okay.
It's about finding your formula.
Yes.
Yeah. And remember, motivation's contagious. The more you learn how to motivate yourself, the more you can inspire and empower others.
Absolutely.
So there you have it, a deep dive into motivation. Hopefully you're leaving this with a better understanding of what drives you and how you can use that to achieve your goals.
And one final thought to ponder. Which theory of motivation resonated with you the most?
Ooh.
And why keep that question in mind as you move forward on your journey?
And remember, motivation is something we can cultivate
Yes.
and strengthen over time. So keep exploring, keep experimenting, keep pushing yourself to achieve those amazing things you're capable of. Until next time, keep diving deep.